Hi, it's Michael and Anthony here presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for the current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, with Anthony Turner from the Small Business Mentoring Service, we'll interview a different small business expert or a fellow business owner and get them to share their best tips and insights for you, the listeners. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. Thanks also to our supporters, Kerr Capital and the Small Business Mentoring Service. Okay, so welcome to another edition of Small Business Banter Radio. Welcome in Les, the Time Lord Watson. Les is a small business coach and productivity expert and is known around his patch as the Time Lord. And welcome in, Les.
Thank you, Michael.
Welcome in also to Anthony Turner, who's co-host from the Small Business Mentoring Service.
Thanks, Michael. Great to be back again.
I've heard Les talk a number of times. It's incredibly down to earth and practical, helpful advice that he gives to owners. So I think in a nutshell, he helps owners who are overloaded or struggling to grow to get more time, energy, and profits. Is that a bit of a start, Les?
That's an awesome start. Would you like me to keep going, Michael?
Please do.
I suppose my background came from a lot of personal development work that I did, and I was fortunate enough to be trained by a gentleman by the name of David Allen, who wrote the other book on time management called Getting Things Done, or the GTD methodology.
He has sold a couple of those, hasn't he?
Yes, indeed. When he trained me, it changed my life, and things really shifted for me to be a whole lot more productive, a whole lot more focused, and things started to happen in my life. I created some huge things for me. And then from there, the days of personal development and looking at how I ticked and getting stuff done, I went into business for myself. And people kept saying, how come you're so efficient? And I went, well, yeah, it's just the way I was trained. And they said, well, do you train us? So I started to train small business around the country in sales, customer service, productivity, time management, team building, leadership, communication, and it's all about being human. So when it came about that I was asked in the region to relaunch my business, and I said, well, my passion is time management, so guess what? I'm going to do productivity, and ended up writing a book. And it doesn't, like I do corporate, like I go top end corporate all the way down to the corner store and anywhere in between. I'm a Tasmanian. Don't hold that against me. It's just the way I was, okay? And from that, what happened was I grew up in a pub. I'm a people person, and it enabled me to really relate to the small business operator, small business owner. And then I had my own small business, and I had the ups and downs of that and what worked and what didn't work. So it enabled me to really relate and create impact for others in their own business.
So why do you think we as business owners get caught up in this whole trap of, non-productivity in your terms? And we've all got the same amount of time in a day, yet some of us seem to do well and others do abysmally at it.
It comes down to focus. Where's your focus? What do you want to do today? What do you want to do this week? What do you want to do this month? What do you want to do this year? Like I have a group that I'm coaching at the moment, and I said to them, for this next piece, grab a sprint. What do you want to create in the next 10 weeks, and have it as a goal, and let's keep you accountable for that. So that's a sprint of 10 weeks. Then you come back to, what do you want to get done today? Like specifically write down what you want to get achieved, because so many of us have these things in our head that we want to get achieved, but it's all scrambled with 1,000 other things. So I'm going to get it out of your head, down onto paper. So no matter if Michael rings me or Anthony rings me or Derek rings me, it doesn't matter, because I can always turn to the page and go, what's next? Oh, yeah, I need to download that podcast. I need to get onto that. I need to ring Kelly. I need to talk to Carmen. So it's always there. So for me, it's about clarity. Do you have clarity about what it is you want to do?
Les, yeah, I was just about to drill down on that. Is it true to say if effective time management can only be achieved if you're very clear about what you want to do with your time?
I'd say that's a huge part of it. One of the things around projects that I say to people is, what's the end result? Ask yourself 2 questions in projects. What's the end result? What does done look like? What are you trying to achieve? Second question, what's the next step? So what are you trying to achieve? Like when you started the podcast, what do you want to achieve? Oh, I want to achieve global market share. And no, I want to do regional. Okay, well, let's get clear on that. We're doing regional. Based on that, what's the next step? Oh, well, let's get a name. Okay, what's the next step? And you just go next step, next step, next step. So a lot of people have never asked themselves, what's the specific next step that I need to take to move my business forward?
Yeah, it can be a happy stumble sometimes, or even an unhappy stumble where you get into business and there's an opportunity over here. You chase that, and you get you go somewhere else, and all of a sudden a lot of years can go by. And so what are some of the telltale signs for you as a coach, or for others observing, say, a partner who's in small business, that they're really unproductive and possibly even struggling at a personal level with all the overwhelm? What are the signs you see?
Well, stress is one. People have stress, and I'm going, well, what's your system? But the first one is stress. Second one is, are people replying to emails, and are they on top of their emails? Now, for me and the people that I coach, it is a matter of, I've got systems and methodologies that can do that. But first of all, how is your email? Are you getting back to people? Or do you have, as I was working with one person, they had 6,000 emails in their inbox. And I went, really? And I said, yeah, it's just driving me bananas. I said, well, little do you know, those whole 6,000 are actually screaming at you every time you open your inbox. So I always tell people to try and get this thing called inbox zero. And it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. Some people are able to do it daily, others people are able to do it weekly. But email's a great one where it's right over the top of you, and you go, I don't know where I am, I don't know who I've replied to, or do I need to reply? I know it's in there somewhere. Oh, I've missed a contract, I've missed a deadline. So the cost becomes apparent. You miss a sale, or you miss a deadline because so the email is is only a tool, but the sign is someone's under stress and the business is suffering, or because of missed opportunities or screaming customers or something. Yeah, I mean, are you keeping agreements with the people around you? Are you keeping agreements with your loved ones? Are you getting away on time? Are you taking time out for yourself? There's a big one that I know Anthony would hone in on from time to time. That's self-care. If you're not looking after yourself, how can you look after your business? Oh yeah, but no. And there are times when you put in the hard yards, or let's go for the hard yards. However, there's a time that you need to break as well. Anthony?
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. The self-care is paramount. And interestingly enough, we just had a discussion with a lady from the States, and we were talking about these very things. And listeners will hear her in another podcast. But I think one of the key things that I learned some time ago, Les, and you'll probably validate as well, is that I use my diary to create blocks of time for me. So in other words, I treat those as being as equally as important as my highest paying client, my most valuable client. And the reason that I do that is what you were touching on is that, hey, if I'm not okay, and what others touch on, if I'm not okay, how can my business and how can my staff and how can the people that I work with be okay?
Yes, but Anthony, I don't have time to do that. Yes, but I don't have time to do that. Yes, but I don't. Well, that's a slippery slope to go nowhere.
It certainly is. And look, the one leveler is time. I mean, we've all got the same 24 hours. It's not whether we have more or less. It's how we use it and but more importantly, how we prioritize the things that are going to give us the biggest return.
Yeah. And once upon a time, in the deep, dark past, we used to travel on aircraft and they'd say, here's what you do and here are the exits. And if there's a pressurization problem, the mask will fall down from above your head. And what's the instruction? Put it on your own face first and then help others. And it's the same with your own business. Are you looking after yourself so you can run your business? Because you cannot do 24/7 all the time. You just can't. You need to take the time out and stop. And I preface that with there's a time in the beginning when you're moving your business forward where you go, I need to get it over the line. Yes, get it over the line, but then look at how you can do those blocks of time. As was said, what are the A priority people? I've got appointments, and put an appointment in there for you called take the time, have some time out. I've got three. I've got prayer, meditation, and time alone. Some people pray, great. Some people meditate, great. But if you don't do those two, give yourself the time to stop. Go for a walk around the block. Get up from your desk. Don't have lunch at your desk. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you spending too much time in front of the telly? I could go on and on and on, and I could get into serious trouble. But Anthony, what were you going to say?
I think the irony is that those people that keep on saying that I don't have time, really, if they take those few minutes, end up doing so much more. And then they can take a few more minutes, but they just don't realize how to switch from one spiral, which is downward, to another spiral, which is upward.
Yep. And along those lines, I've got a thing in the book, and we'll talk about where you can get the book at a later time. Maybe it'll be in the show notes. But the thing about a coffee nap. Now, you have a coffee, 15 minutes later, you have a nap. It's like, I don't have time to do that. Well, what I did for myself, there was a time when I was working in Sydney where I had the opportunity to go, let me just stop because I can't even think. So I'd lay down, find a room, lay down, give myself 20 minutes. And at the end of the 20 minutes, the alarm went off and I hadn't gone deep. But what it enabled me to do was to reset and recharge. And I'd go again. Now, I was putting in 10-hour days and it worked a treat. Can you do that in small business? Sometimes you can't, but do yourself a favour. Take some breaks. Michael?
Les, I just wanted to reintroduce you that on today's edition of Small Business Banter, we are talking with Les Watson, the Time Lord. Les, in this sort of back half of the interview, I'm really keen to share with your wisdom and advice on tools and tips and ways that owners can go about better using their time. But I want to start with a question around your experience with small business owners. How many of them right now today actually use a diary or something similar to even, try to manage their time? I'm talking about small business, not corporate, where they live by diaries. Is it a majority or is it a minority that use a diary or something similar?
I'll say it's half and half.
Okay.
And the key to a good system, as I say, I don't care if it's a paper-based system or an app-based system. I do not care. I'm agnostic in that regard. Mm. No matter what you have, do you have something? So for me, it's called a trusted system, where it goes out of your head, down onto paper, and therefore it's in a system that you trust and it will get done. So the first key is, what's your system? Are you using a system with which you can then be productive. And my system has two parts to it. Front part has a calendar, back half has areas of responsibility. So I'm able to go to meetings, I'm able to brainstorm on all the different areas of my life because it's in one place. It's not all over the shop. So that question around calendars and diaries, I'd say about half and half. People are using something, whether it's a ring-bound binder or a planner system or an app. And again, people say, what app works? I said, the one that works is the one that you work. And there's 15, 20, 400 of them. Doesn't really matter. Just pick one. And one that's available for a lot of people is OneNote because it's a part of the Microsoft suite.
Yeah. Are there any in that half that don't use anything? Are there still people that are highly effective because they're a different animal, or is it? I'm kind of. I guess I'm leading towards your take on whether it is essential to have a system.
What I've found in my experience is there are some that are able to do it and the majority can't. So if you can't do that, then have a system which goes out of your head down onto paper and you don't have to worry about it anymore. What that does, it's a thing called incompletion. So if you can download all of those incompletions and do a brain dump, what it enables you to do is have free space and therefore be creative. A lot of freedom comes in that, and a lot of opportunity to just diverge into creativity and create more of what it is that you want in your life.
And avoid that feeling of I thought of something wonderful the other day, or I missed a deadline because I didn't write it down. I just assumed I'd remember it. I'm sure that happens to a lot of people, including me.
Definitely. The saying is that the shortest pencil is longer than the longest memory. So rather than think about it, just get it out of your head. And the example, and Anthony and I met at one of the chambers, and at the chamber, I was at that front reception all the way through. It's probably, I don't know, about 60 or 70 steps to the other room. I was in the top room thinking about something and talking to this person. They said, I've got a good idea. And unbeknownst to them, I wrote it down. And they had another good idea and I wrote it down. Unbeknownst to them, they had a third and I wrote it down. An hour and a half later, we ended up back at our office. She said, I forgot what it was that those really good ideas. And I went, what, these three? And she said, how did you do that? I said, it's not about keeping it in your head, because the majority of us, with the amount of input we've got going on, can't keep all that in our head. So I just write it down. And it changed her life. And it's one of those key linchpins for me. I just write it down. I've got, 7 or 8 things on my list this morning. And even if it's just small, I'll write it down. My wife actually gave me one earlier. Same thing. I just wrote it down.
Yeah. You've worked with a lot of clients, in the small business area. What are the biggest challenges you have to address in breaking them down to realize that they do need a system? Have you had any, successes that you were particularly proud of, or approaches you've used that were particularly breakthrough in terms of transforming a small business owner's productivity and possibly life and business?
One example is a particular woman that I'm working with currently, and when she got a hold of a trusted system, she was able to use it for such leverage that her business took off to the point where she then turned around and said, I can't take any more clients because it's got so busy. It really is something that works. Then for others, part of that, and Anthony knows this one, and that is accountability. Do you have someone who you are accountable for in the business? And by accountability, are you meeting with somebody on a weekly, not daily, if you can do it daily, fabulous, but weekly basis to go, here's what worked, here's what didn't work, here's what I'm going to do differently next week. For me, I've got a dashboard that I have KPIs, key performance indicators, and I'm a small business. But I take that KPI and that dashboard into a weekly meeting with my wife, and it can give a snapshot of where the business is at, what's working, what's not working. And she can ask me questions. What happened here? And how come that's low? And where did that come from? So in that accountability, it really does move me along, as opposed to 3 to 6 months later, I'm in the schmoo because no one asked the question of what happened, why can't you move, why don't you? It's very easy to hide in small business and slip out the back door. And we all know the stats of small business going under, and I'm going, and Anthony's going, hey, guys, reach out, get some support. And this is what this whole podcast is about. The Small Business Bandit is about having some experts go, here's the way to do it. And here's an opportunity to do it differently, not do the same old SOMO and get the same result.
Yeah, it's and I think that accountability factor. You sit with your wife. You act as, I'm assuming you act as an accountability coach for some of your clients. You probably come across others who go to networking things or have catch ups with business colleagues to keep each other accountable. But it's is it a case of being really honest? If you want to make change, be more productive, you probably can't do it alone.
Indeed, you can't do it alone. We're not born to be alone. We're born to be in society. We're born to be out and about. So if you're going to do it as a team, do it as a team. But it also comes back to, what are you doing? How can you do it? And there are two things, and we're kind of heading towards the real back end. Those two things are leadership and discipline. You are the leader of your small business. And being the leader of your small business, the buck stops with you. So rather than actually go, oh, yeah, but, no, bite the bullet. No, do the same with email. I say to people, do, dump, delegate, or decide when, the 4 Ds. But that takes leadership, because as an email comes in, do I do it if I can do it under 2 minutes? Do I get rid of it and dump it because it's spam? Do I delegate it to somebody? Or do I decide when I'm going to do it, diarise it, and do it later? But that takes leadership, because majority of people go, oh, I don't know, I'll put it off. Open, close, open, close, open, close. And you end up with 1,000 emails in your inbox. So I'm saying to small business owners, be the leader. Make the hard decisions, and you'll find that your productivity improves, your business improves, you start to get better relationships. And that's the leadership part. And then from there, the discipline to just do it on a consistent basis. Anthony?
I think the other thing, Les, that I notice from the mentoring work that I do is that as business owners themselves get more productive, what they do is they start setting up good habits, but also good role model pictures of how things should be done within their businesses, which then the team, whether that's, employees, or whether that's volunteers, or whether that might be, the people that you're delegating outsourcing to that are part of your team, they start to pick up on those things, and it becomes sort of like a self-perpetuating thought of, doing things better. And then that becomes a habit, and the businesses naturally improve.
Yeah, and you become the role model. You've got to start, it comes from the top. What do they say, Anthony? The
fish stinks from the head.
That's it. That's the one. So if you're the leader and things aren't working, it actually rests on you. So have a crack. And business isn't all peaches and roses and rainbows. It's just not. You're going to fall over and you're going to make mistakes. And part of that becomes the scars and the wounds. You go, I remember those days, and yeah, we came through it, but you had a crack. We all didn't crawl into work today. We walked. Why? Because we learnt to walk by falling over.
As you mentioned, the OneNote, part of the Microsoft Suite, is a tool that you use. So there's some others that you see that people commonly use amongst the clients and businesses that you work with?
There's OneNote, there's Evernote, there's Asana, there's a new one on the market called Notion. The list goes on and on and on. There's a number of them. So some of them are paid, some of them are free. A lot of them have a free version. You can just check it out. And again, is it the one for you? You won't know until you give it a crack. Have a go at it. And in having a go at it, go, okay, well, I've done that for 3 weeks. I'm going to have another go. And you get a real reference about what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, good advice, Les. I just wanted to quickly cover, we talk a lot about being a leader in this discussion, but there's a lot of solo business operators as well. How do you see the leadership applies there just as much as it does to a case where you've got employees? But is it a slightly different approach needed, to recognise that you are solo and you're accountable to yourself as opposed to somebody else?
Recognition, yes. Awareness. It's like, are you aware that you are the boss? And that you're like, yeah, of course I am, Les. Okay, so what are you doing about it? Because if you are the boss, are you taking the strides and making the big decisions and making shit happen because you can make that happen, as opposed to procrastination?
For sure. Les, thank you so much for your time today. Do you want to just shout out that that book that you showed us? Because we're looking for resources here to share amongst the listeners. So what's the book called?
You Get Back an Hour every day. It's on my website at getmoretime.com.au. There's a store there, and you can buy the book there, or you can do it with an ebook as well. So there's a PDF version that's available on this as well. Get Back an Hour every day, and the website getmoretime.com.au.
Thank you, Les, the Time Lord Watson. We really value your time today. Lots of, as I said at the start, we knew it was going to be practical and something that we'd encourage every owner to think about. Spend some time to think about how they spend their time.
Awesome. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Anthony.
Thanks, Les.
Thank you, Les. So that's all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. Anthony and I continue to be inspired by bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. For any of the links, resources or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact Anthony or myself, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on both Facebook and Instagram. Anthony and I would love you to tune in at the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.